Today we bring you a suspenseful thriller about two young travelers who, during their budget journey, encounter a ruthless killer couple and are forced into a deadly struggle. Yet behind this murderous pair lies a shocking secret, and more terrifying events begin to unfold. The male lead, Mike, dreams of traveling the world, and in pursuit of that dream, he sets out on a shoestring trip that takes him to the countryside. Penniless, he stands by the roadside hoping to hitch a ride, but after waiting endlessly, not a single car stops. To make matters worse, a little girl inside one passing car even flips him off, leaving Mike frustrated and disheartened. In truth, it isn't that people are heartless or unwilling to help. Rather, recent rumors have spread that a deranged serial killer has been spotted near the highway, so for the sake of their own safety, drivers choose to ignore Mike. Because no car ever stopped for him, Mike had no choice but to walk alone along the endless highway. Just then, a blue sedan approached and suddenly swerved to a shaky stop on the roadside before Mike could even signal. From a distance, he could see the man inside quarreling with the girl in the passenger seat, even raising his hand against her. Unable to ignore the scene, Mike rushed forward to play the hero and rescue her. The shaken girl thanked him repeatedly, introducing herself as Linda, a fellow traveler like him. She explained that she had hitched a ride from the man, who then tried to assault her, but thanks to Mike's intervention, she escaped unharmed. Seeing the blonde, blue-eyed girl before him, Mike felt an immediate attraction. With Linda now by his side, his journey no longer felt lonely. The two walked together, chatting and laughing, but even as night fell, not a single car stopped to give them a ride. Seeing Mike's growing frustration, Linda finally told him about the rumor of a serial killer, which had left the locals living in fear. For safety reasons, most drivers avoided picking up strangers. Mike just laughed it off, insisting their luck couldn't possibly be that bad. As night fell, the two weary travelers built a campfire by the roadside after a full day of walking. They shared stories of their lives, and without realizing it, their hearts slowly drew closer. The next morning, Mike took Linda to a nearby river to wash up. Bold and carefree, Linda undressed right in front of him, and Mike couldn't help but steal a few glances at her graceful figure, his heart racing. After resting and refreshing themselves, they hit the road again, and this time, luck was finally on their side. They managed to flag down a ride not long after setting out. The driver introduced himself as John, a kindly-looking man who said he lived nearby. After learning that Mike and Linda were backpackers, he warmly invited them to his home for a meal. Hungry and tired, Mike eagerly accepted and hopped into John's car without hesitation, though Linda, sitting in the back seat, seemed uneasy. At first everything felt normal, but halfway down the road the car suddenly jolted as if it had hit something. John quickly pulled over to check, and Mike followed him to the rear of the vehicle. As Mike drew closer to the source of the blood on the road, John suddenly appeared holding a rabbit, its body dripping with blood. He tossed the carcass into a bag in the trunk and calmly explained that the unlucky animal must have been caught under the wheels. After the small incident, the three continued on their way, though Mike was no longer as relaxed as before and kept a cautious eye out. Before long, the car arrived at a large villa where John's wife, Anna, warmly welcomed them. She thoughtfully prepared guest rooms for the two backpackers to rest in, which deeply touched Mike. What made him feel even more at ease was discovering that Anna came from the same hometown as him and spoke fluent English. Perhaps because she hadn't seen anyone from home in so long, Anna suddenly stepped forward and gave Mike a big hug, though her expression carried a strange subtlety. As she left the room, she cast Mike a meaningful glance, but the exhausted traveler didn't notice. Instead, he collapsed onto the soft bed, and after going so long without proper rest, he quickly fell into a deep sleep. By the time he awoke, it was already late in the afternoon. John and Anna prepared a lavish dinner to welcome their guests, and Mike planned to leave with Linda after the meal. During dinner, Mike brought up the recent serial killer rumors. John explained that the killer was vicious and cruel, targeting lone travelers. For some reason, Anna's face darkened at the mention of the murderer, and she eventually stormed off to her room in anger. The atmosphere instantly grew awkward. Linda lost her appetite as well and stepped outside to smoke. Mike thought about leaving with her right then, but heavy rain began pouring down, forcing them to stay another night at the villa. That night, with nothing else to do, Mike sat chatting with Linda. She revealed that she once had a younger brother, but while they were playing near the roadside, he ran into the middle of the street and was struck dead by an oncoming car. Afterwards, her mother blamed Linda for not watching him carefully, leaving her overwhelmed with guilt and trapped in grief. The tragedy became a scar that never truly healed in her heart. Mike listened with sympathy, comforting her as best he could. Later, when he returned to his room, he took extra precautions and locked the door. But while he was asleep, Linda somehow managed to get inside and quietly slipped into his bed. Overcome by passion, Mike couldn't resist her advances, and the two gave in to their emotions. Yet when Mike awoke again, he was stunned to discover that Linda had vanished. Even more unsettling, John and Anna were nowhere to be found either. The entire house was eerily empty, leaving Mike all alone. This left Mike with a growing sense of unease. As he quietly searched for Linda, John suddenly walked in from outside. Mike hurriedly asked if he knew where she had gone, but John calmly replied that Linda had already left early in the morning. To prove it, he even handed Mike a small note, supposedly written by Linda as a farewell. Patting Mike on the shoulder, John spoke like an experienced elder, advising him to forget about her and continue chasing his dreams, assuring him that one day he would meet someone better. Helpless, Mike had no choice but to leave. As he drifted toward the door, lost in thought about his fleeting romance, he suddenly discovered Linda's notebook tucked in his pocket. Curious, he flipped it open and was shocked. The handwriting inside the notebook was completely different from the farewell note. In other words, Linda hadn't written that letter at all. John had forged it. At the thought of this, a chill ran down Mike's spine. Could John have kidnapped Linda? Just as he was about to turn and confront John, someone jabbed a tranquilizer needle into the back of his neck. He only had time to notice the attacker's shoes before slipping into unconsciousness. When Mike awoke again, he found himself lying in the back of a truck, his hands and feet bound. Soon after, a gray-haired old man appeared and Mike was carried into a house filled with animal pelts and taxidermy displays. A shiver ran down his spine. Could he have fallen into the lair of the legendary serial killer? The old man explained that he was a hunter who, each year under government orders, hunted overpopulated wild animals to maintain ecological balance. However, he spoke only in French, which Mike, who only understood English, could not comprehend at all. Unable to communicate with the old man, Mike feared that he intended to kill him and turn him into another taxidermy specimen. Terrified, he struggled violently, refusing to cooperate. The old man reluctantly forced him to eat something, then carried him back to the truck. Seeing Mike restless, the old man prepared a syringe to sedate him again, but at that moment, thick smoke began billowing from the kitchen window. Realizing he had forgotten to turn off the stove, the old man had no choice but to leave Mike temporarily in the truck. Once the old man departed, Mike used a nail in the truck to cut through his bindings and dashed into the nearby forest. He ran without looking back, but soon found himself inexplicably back at John's villa. Quietly, Mike hid outside the fence, observing. By looking at the shoes, Mike confirmed that the person who had attacked him was John. The more he thought about it, the more suspicious he became. He suspected that Linda hadn't left on her own but was being held somewhere by John and Anna. To verify his suspicion, Mike waited until the couple left the villa and then snuck inside. Quietly searching, he eventually found Linda tied up in the attic. Racing against time, he quickly removed her bindings and got into a car parked at the entrance to escape. Unfortunately, John and Anna, having forgotten something, returned home soon after. Discovering that Linda had been rescued, they hurried to give chase and quickly spotted Mike's car. The two vehicles then engaged in a high-speed pursuit along the narrow country roads. However, due to the high speed, Mike sharply turned the steering wheel, causing the car to roll over and crash into the nearby grass. Fortunately, neither Mike nor Linda was injured. They struggled out of the vehicle and resumed their escape. In their panic, they ducked into a nearby farm for refuge, but before they could catch their breath, the old hunter appeared. It turned out this territory belonged to him, and Mike suspected he was working with John and Anna, so he remained on high alert. The hunter spoke in French as he approached Linda, urging her to stop causing trouble, but Mike couldn't understand a word. Seeing the hunter closing in, Linda, in desperation, raised a hunting rifle and placed her finger on the trigger. Immediately, an unexpected turn of events occurred. The old hunter slipped and fell to the ground, a steel rod piercing his left shoulder. Seeing this, Linda grabbed a dagger from the ground and without hesitation drove it into the hunter's heart, decisively ending him. At that moment, John and Anna arrived in pursuit. Seeing the old hunter's body, they were shocked. John demanded to know why Linda had killed her own uncle. It was then revealed that Linda was actually the couple's daughter. Having witnessed her younger brother's tragic death as a child, her mind had gradually twisted, and she found solace in killing. The lone travelers they had encountered were in fact all victims of her blade. The seemingly delicate and fragile Linda was, in truth, the real serial killer, while her parents acted as her accomplices, taking care of the aftermath and disposing of the bodies. John and Anna had never wanted to watch their daughter continue slaughtering innocent people, so they tried everything to get Mike to leave. To ensure his safety, they had enlisted Linda's uncle, the old hunter, to escort Mike away. But Mike, infatuated with Linda, returned, which ultimately caused the situation to spiral out of control. Tearfully, the deeply loving parents dealt with the old hunter's body. To prevent Linda from committing further acts, they bound her hands and put her into the car. Just as the family of 3 was about to leave, Mike burst out of the warehouse holding a hunting rifle. Unaware of the full situation, he believed Linda was being taken away again and threatened John and Anna to release her immediately. Though the couple tried to explain, Mike refused to listen. In the end, Linda personally used tape to bind her parents and abandoned them in the wilderness, then drove off with Mike. On the road, she smiled at him from the passenger seat before reaching down toward the bloody dagger. Oblivious to her true nature, Mike still dreamed of a happy life with Linda, unaware that he was about to regret his choice. The story concludes here, leaving a suspenseful cliffhanger. Will Mike survive? Through this film, the director reminds us that dangerous games often begin with what seems like a chance encounter.